Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Tech Productions. Today, Bancroft, I'm joining you all once again for another deck profile. But as you can tell by the thumbnail, this time is actually the final leader from set 15 to be profiled, if correct, on our channel. I know it took a long time to get to this point. Just, no one was playing it really at our shop, and I felt like I should finally just give it a shot myself. So, like always, buttons down below, feel free to click, they're there for reasons. But let's get into it. Son Goku. When this card is placed in your leader area, activate to one King Kai's planet from your deck. So boom, King Kai's planet is a field card, 10 energy cost. We'll get into that in a bit of a second. So when this card attacks, you draw one, which is always nice. When your life is 4 or less, or when your opponent's leader's card back is facing up, you may switch up to one of your energy to active mode, and have this card get plus 5,000 power for the turn, and flip this card over. So it's really great to awaken during your opponent's turn, just to have the defensive step. But if you want to maximize that energy during your turn, do it during your turn. That way you could potentially attack with a stronger attack going towards your opponent's leader, or any battle card Unison that might be a problem. Once awakened, it still maintains the same motto, but now it has an activate main, which I kind of don't like as much, but we'll get into that in a second. Send 4 King Kai's trainings from under a King Kai's planet in your battle area to the owner's warp. This card gets plus 45,000 power for the turn, and minus 15,000 power during the next turn. So, the thing I don't like about this effect, because it's an activate main, not an activate battle. So if you activate this main during your turn, now of course, you could prolong the leader swing and attack with battle cards first, or try to poke other ways until your opponent exhausts their resources. That way when you swing with your leader, they can't negate. And potentially, if they have 1 or 2 life, is when you're best to do this, because it doesn't gain anything on top of that, so you would have to use like a Champa to just give it a double strike. So it's kind of like a high risk, not as high of a reward, because if your opponent just says, yeah, I'm just going to negate that 45 or that 60,000 attack, Great doesn't really have any counters for the leader card. So it's one of the things I just don't choose to use that effect. Like I said, if you tap your opponent out and you've exhausted most of the resources, sure, do it. Go for that final swing. But outside that, it does have an activate battle, which is actually far more powerful. Activate battle. Once per turn, place 1 King Kai's training from under a King Kai's planet in your battle area to the owner's drop area. This card gains plus 10,000 power for the battle, and minus 10,000 power during your next turn. It's not as high as a cost to boost up your attack during battle by 10k than it is to warp all resources so that your leader may get negated. So I like the activate battle way more, and you can also use it as a defensive step if you need to, because the King Kai's planet. Activate main, place up to 1 King Kai's training from your deck, life, or drop area under this card. Shuffle the area you look through with the skill. So if you use this as a defensive thing during your opponent's turn, you can always just activate main to pull that back during the beginning of your turn, because activate main will turn. If there are 4 King Kai's trainings under this card, choose one of these 3 effects. Either choose to 1 Son Goku card, kaio-ken, Son Goku confronting invasion in your hand and play it. Choose all green Son Goku cards in your leader area and battle area, and they get plus 5,000 power for the turn. Or you draw 1 card and choose 1 card in your hand and place it at the bottom of your deck. This deck likes to cycle cards, and this is another good way of doing it, because there's certain cards you want in your drop area. So let's bring King Kai's plan back to the field, to the board. So the card you want underneath this card is King Kai's Training, which for 1 energy, activate main. Choose 1 King Kai's planet in your battle area. Place this card under the chosen card. Add up to 1 Son Goku kaio-ken, confronting invasion from your deck to your hand, and shuffle your deck afterwards. So it helps you kind of create the kaio-ken engine early on, which is pretty nice. And like I said, these are the 4 cards you want underneath the field card. Now there are some cards that help us find those. For example, we play 3 of Norkai Master Guidance. For 1 energy, choose 1 King Kai's planet in your battle area. When this card is played, you draw 1 card. Place up to 1 King Kai's training from your deck or drop area under the chosen card. Then shuffle your deck if you look through it. Now, what's great about this is that this kind of gives you an easier way of getting turn 1, getting 2 King Kai's training underneath your field card. And if you have another one in your hand, turn 2, you can just boom, there's 4 right there. But Going back to what you acquired 4 of the trainings, we, like I said earlier, have for Activate Main, you play the Confronting Invasion, which we do play 4 of those. It's a card you want to see. It's what starts the engine. It has Barrier, which means you can only have 1 on the board at a time. Activate Main, limit 1 for 1 green energy. If there's a total of 4 King Kai trainings in your warp slot or under King Kai's planet in your battle area, and you send this card to its owner's warp, play up to 1 Son Goku, maximum gains, which is also a kaio-ken, from your deck, then shuffle your deck afterwards. Now keep in mind, so you play this for free, you swing, you pay 1 energy to play a 3-drop, which I currently play 3 of. And when this card is played, it does not have barrier anymore, so it's kind of open to anything, but it has auto on play. When this card is played, draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 4 or less and KO it. Doesn't have to be a rest, nothing special, just you boom, goodbye to a 4-drop card. Like I said, you do draw 1 as well, so it just gives more resources to your hand. This card also has an Activate Main, which is a limit 1 for 1 green energy. If your opponent has 3 or more energy, and your life is less than or equal to your opponent's, choose up to 1 Kaio-ken Son Goku Decisive Battle in your hand and play it on top of this card, which we play 3 of. You can also EX Evolve this card for 3 energy as well. So the EX Evolve is if your opponent has 3 or more energy. Mono green Son Goku energy cost of 2 or 3, so you could do it on top of the 2-drop as well, which is pretty cool. This card does have Deflect, Double Strike, Barrier, and Dual Attack. When this card is played, choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring Barrier, KO them, and your leader and Son Goku cards in your battle area get minus 10,000 power for during your opponent's next turn. So this is a big card to play out for potentially 1 energy. Like I said, the downside though is that it is negating your field of all Gokus and your leader by 10k during your opponent's turn, but it will get rid of 2 problem cards, which is always great. No energy cost restriction there. Now this does have an auto at the end of turn, which you may have seen in my battle. I took this auto completely differently. At the end of the battle, send this card to his owner's warp. It has a period, not a semicolon. And it says if you do, you have to. You have to send this card to the warp at the end of your turn. I confused that by accident, and we didn't send this card to the warp. But, after looking at it and going through a bunch of other stuff, yeah, I played it wrong. So like I said, at the end of your turn, you have to send this card to the warp. And if you do, you can play up to 1 Son Goku Confronting Invasion from your warp. So it just recycles the 2-drop back to the field for you to potentially restart that whole engine, as long as you have another 5-drop in your hand. So that's the kaio-ken engine. For Unison, I play 4 Krillin. I always go for the theme decks. That's who I am. I like it. And actually, this is a really good Unison. So once per turn, if your life is 3 or less, and it's your opponent's turn, when your leader's power is decreased, switch this card to active mode, and it gains blocker for the turn. Keep in mind, that negs it by 10. Even the leader's own ability negs it by 10. So, you can play with that. So resends it, gives it blocker. It does have a +1 active mean. Choose 1 card in your hand, place it at the bottom of your deck. For every 2 Kaio-ken trainings under King Kai's planet in your battle area, you draw 1 card. So you can potentially draw bottom deck 1, draw 2, kind of like the Gohan Super Combos. And then it has a -1. Your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards it. Don't really use that one as much, but it's there in case you want to. I play 2 training buddy Gregory, which auto choose 1 card in your hand, place it at the bottom of your deck, then place 1 King Kai's training from underneath your planet in your battle area into your drop. When this card is played, you draw 2 cards. So once again, it's another bottom deck 1, draw 2. And once you play Gregory, you can just turn around. And where did the field card go? I don't know where it went. You activate the main here just to put that back underneath it. That way you still have 4 there, which is pretty cool. So it's just more ways of drawing. For searching, we play 3 of the Training Gold Son Goku. When this card is played, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 green Son Goku card with energy cost of 5 or less, or 1 green Unison with specific cost of 2 among them, and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck afterwards. It does have an activate main limit 1 as well for 1 green energy. If there are 3 or more King Kai's trainings on their King Kai's planet in your battle area, choose up to 1 Goku's Confronting Invasion in your deck or warp. Play it on top of this card, then shuffle your deck if you look through it. So it's just another way of potentially getting the 2-drop back to the board, so you can potentially go for another 5-drop chain. Since we automatically from the start have a Kinkai's plan to go, I do play 2 of the Vegetas prepping for invasion, because if you have a green field extra card in your battle area, you can play this card from your hand without paying its energy cost. It is a blocker, it just helps protect yourself if you need that protection. And speaking of protection, 2 homicidal clones. It's always good to hit your own life if you need to play a blocker, so it's a free negate that takes a life that plays a blocker, so it stops 2 attacks. Slowing down, potentially wide boards. You got Majin Buu. If your opponent attacks, they have to discard 2 cards. And it's for more board control, not board control, but attack control, dormant potential. I mean, it's just a really good green negate. If you have a Unison, it's free. Speaking of Unisons, Frieza Chromatic Villain. Play 3 of those because the deck can draw a lot. It just pops a card, 7 energy cost of 7 or less. Speaking of draws, Great Saiyaman. I like the idea of bottom decking 1 and drawing 2, just cycling the cards I need. And I didn't really go over this one as much, but with all this bottom decking and drawing 2, you can always just bottom deck the 3-drop from your hand. That way, when you go to activate the 2-drop's effect, it's in your deck. Alright, so going to the last bit of this, the deck, play 1 Son Gohan, Hidden Might. Just a really good double strike with Deflect. It has the permanent when your life is 3 or less, you reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 3, so it's a 2-drop. Auto, if your leader card is green, when this card is played, you choose one of 2 effects. You choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, KO it. Doesn't matter what it is, just kill it. And choose up to one of your opponent's Unison cards and remove a marker from it. So, depends on what you got going on. If it's Promac Unison, boom. If it's not, pop a card. Speaking of popping cards, we played the amazing Son Goku long-awaited rematch and TN combo, where if you have a green battle card in play, you can pay 1 energy to play this card. Then you add it to 1 card from your life to your hand. If you have TN on the board, this card gains 10,000 power and triple strike. It does have barrier, so it can be countered play, but if it hits the board, it's kind of protected. And then TN itself is that when this card is played, choose all of your opponent's battle cards of energy cost 5 or less and KO them. It does have a deactivate main for 2 green energy. You can play this card if you have Son Goku long-awaited rematch in play, which is pretty cool. This one does have Deflect, so it's coming into play once Gohan has been established. Sorry, when Goku's been established, and it's also it's a 20,000 double strike card as well. It's just full extra pressure there if needed. Now, if you're trying to go for a good board, your opponent's like, yeah, I'm going to play one of the few Floodgate cards like Topo, Majin Buu, or even Trunks. Well, actually, Trunks won't work for this one if correct. No, its energy cost reduces, yeah. So, the Doria, brimming with power. If your leader card is mono green and you have a green Unison in play, if the battle card being played has energy cost of 2 or less, it is placed in its owner's drop area instead of being played. Then you play this card. So that way those cards are never hitting the board, so their autos are never going off. It's kind of like, my Cold Bloodlust, but for small flood board stuff. Alright, for in-game stuff, adding a double strike to any cards, always great if it doesn't already have it. And this could be a toss-up, in my opinion. I'm currently playing as my secret rare the Majin Buu Kabito Kai Zorb, because it's also another way of just stop my opponent from pushing upon me, because it's activate /battle for 2 energy, play this card from your hand, and your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the turn. So if they attack a leader first, and you play this, boom, they may just have to pass the turn unless they have a really good Unison on board. But not only that, but if you Spirit Boost for 2, you can steal your opponent's Unisons, and sometimes that can come in handy, especially if it's a problematic Unison that they like a lot. It is Double Strike 40,000, so it's not bad. But there is a secondary choice. You could instead play Reincarnation of the Demonic Evil, which is a counter if the card other than your leader is in battle. So potentially, if you were going to use this one, you're only really using it when you're swinging for either your Kaio-ken Son Goku, or which has triple strike. So I mean, like, thing with the Goku is that it takes 3 energy to get out. Kaio-ken 5-drop takes potentially 2 energy to get out. So when you do this energy cost for this card is reduced by 7, so it's still 3 energy to play. So you just kind of got to work around that. But if you have 5 energy on that turn and you're able to establish the Goku engine, the 5-drop, and you swing and your opponent's like, no, you can play this, boom, it's a 40k double strike as well, and it stops them from negating. I just like the idea of potentially stopping my opponent from hitting me too hard. I like to play protective, at least at our locals. And that is my deck. I hope you all enjoyed it. Keep in mind, there's buttons down below. Feel free to click them and put comments down there as well, because this is the last set 15, in my opinion, theme deck that I'm building. So from here on out, I'm kind of just start building whatever I want. So you know what? I'm going to put it out there. What do you want me to build? Read your cards, know your plays, and fluff out.